Artificial intelligence isn't coming, it's already here. And in the world of contact centers, we've been early adopters. From chatbots to intelligent routing and predictive analytics, AI has been helping us improve efficiencies and service for years. But as AI implementations accelerate across New Zealand, from public sector transformation to enterprise-wide and automation, a new question emerges. Are we doing this responsibly? As leaders, it's no longer just about what AI can do. It's about what it should do and how we govern it to protect our people, our customers, and our reputation. My guest today is Matt Ensor, the founder of Kiaora AI and one of the most respected voices in AI strategy and governance. I had the privilege of meeting Matt through the Institute of Directors New Zealand AI Governance course, where his insights into responsible deployment and ethical oversight left a lasting impression. In this episode, we dive into the risks, responsibilities, and rewards of leading with integrity in the age of automation. Welcome to the Kiwi CX Collective, Matt Ensor. Matt, nice to have you here.
Great, it's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, really, it's a pleasure to have you here. Now, Matt, for those of our audience who might not have met you before, do you mind giving us a little bit of background in terms of Matt and your involvement within the AI sector?
Yeah, most people don't realise I trained as a civil engineer, which is a useful profession, but not one I was particularly good at, I have to say. But I've always been in the sort of the engineering field, dealing a lot more with sort of, the community aspects of infrastructure and public services. And so it wasn't until 2018 that I discovered AI, really. Up until then, it had been kind of irrelevant to me. But I had a role at Becker, which is a big consulting firm. Been around for 100 years, or 102 probably now. And I was business director of new services. So the idea was to find things that engineers were good at, but that we could use, a different commercial model than just sort of charging by the hour. And so I'd stumbled across, and it wasn't called generative AI back then, it was called deep learning. And I stumbled across this technology. And I had no idea at the time, how it would develop. But what struck me was its ability to communicate with people and personalize things. And I thought, wow, this is really going to, this could be the most powerful technology in the world. I remember saying that. Not sure if I believed it at the time. But and it's grown since then into, from ChatGPT through to what we have now. I founded a firm on the way through called Frankly AI, which was funded by Becker. And our goal was to replace SurveyMonkey with an AI, bit of a chatbot really, that would be able to ask questions, but let the user, if you like, lead the conversation about what they wanted to talk about, not about what was on the form. And we had a lot of success with that in terms of the technology, and in terms of getting support, but almost no commercial success. Yes, that's in the history now. But yeah, it's just in the last year, I've set up my own business, and I effectively train and coach, run workshops on how to get going with generative AI. That's the big barrier. It's like, what do we do? Where do we get started? What tools do we use? And I have a mantra at the moment, which is it only takes a day. So none of my workshops or my commissions last longer than a day. My job is to do myself out of a business, out of a job, if you like, by the end of each day. And that's all it takes, really, for organizations to get going.
Wow. So if you go back and look at this, you mentioned back to 2018 when you got involved. I think you're absolutely correct. We didn't talk about AI being AI. We just looked at some automation. Yeah. You mentioned chatbots. Contact centers have been using chatbots for a number of years. Yeah. We used to call this IVR back in the day, and it's evolved over time. And yet, when we look at the implementation, even just as we were chatting at the Institute of Directors course, we talked about shadow AI. People are using AI in your organization in one format or another. And I think we can all point to areas of productivity improvements, and areas of hacks that we can work our way through. But then from a governance perspective, what are the risks? How do we ensure that we as leaders are guiding the organization and putting down the right pathway to ensure that we can protect their reputation, protect their customers, protect their employees?
Yeah. So I say to organisations, there's 4 things that I see organisations doing well that are achieving the outcomes that you kind of describe. So one is actually giving approval for their staff to use AI, and that's and it's sort of intuitive. If you ban AI, they're just going to use AI you don't know about, and it might be quite good AI, but yes, you've lost that ability to control the quality and where the data goes and things like that. The next thing I say to them is make sure you get what I call an enterprise AI tool. So have, and it can just be, in fact, preferably perhaps, just one tool that the organisation supports, invests in, provides licensing to, and people should fear no fear about using that tool, because a lot of people are like, oh, what if I do this? Will it damage something, or will it leak information? So they need to have a safe platform. And, funnily enough, Microsoft Copilot seems to be becoming that tool, which is surprising in some ways because it's come a long way from where it was. The next thing is around just AI. You might want to call it an AI use policy. So, what can people do and what can't they do? And particularly, what can't they do? Don't use it for these things here. So that, again, it takes away that sort of barrier of people thinking, oh, I might break something. And the last thing I see people doing, or people who are getting momentum, is around sort of staff training and upskilling. There's some, and I always try and base what I say on research. There's a lot of, adhocracy out there about, I heard this from so and so, but the research was very clear. It's. I'd like to get an update, but when you used to roll out AI, 95% of people wouldn't use it, because they didn't know how, and they knew how to do their jobs. Why would I use this thing? And it's probably not very good. They might try it once, and it wasn't a great thing. But if you give them training in terms of how to use the tool, suddenly those numbers go way up, and then you start getting the benefits, because people are kind of sharing. I did this, and look how this works, and things like that. So it's not difficult. But at each one of those steps, I often see companies fail. They're like, you can use AI, and this is the platform, but off you go. It's just a I suppose there's no secrets out there. It's just a 4-step process.
Well, it's good you have a 4-step process, but then if we go and look at implementations, we can look at a multiple series of implementations. For example, here in New Zealand, whether it's Oscar, the chatbot that Air New Zealand have, all the way through to other activities which we'll see on a daily basis. But then you go in, and I remember you sharing the instance of AI being used by Hertz.
Oh, yes.
Do you mind sharing that story again?
It's a very timely story, actually. I think it's still destroying their business, as far as I know. So Hertz, it's run by a venture capital firm, paid too much for it, I guess, and so they need to, the cost side is a bit of a problem for them, and so what they've introduced is a scanner, an AI scanner. So it's not generative AI; it's machine learning type of AI, and it just scans the vehicles as they come in to look for dents and scratches, and will automatically charge you for the damage it thinks it's caused to your car. At a governance level, I suppose this is a good idea, because you'll increase revenue. But what's happened is that it goes completely against one of their core values, which is customer service. I don't know if you remember from the 70s, love Hertz. It's like, you're the most important thing to us. And what's happening is people are getting accused by the AI of denting their car when they bring it back. And there's instances where it's just got it wrong. This is AI, 5% of the time gets it wrong, and it's actually just a bit of mud on the car. And so when they complain, the people at the depot say, well, it's not us, it's the AI, which is the first problem, of course, just leaving everything up to the AI. And it's very difficult to actually get your money back when the AI has detected something. And so I know now that people are actually not renting from Hertz because they are scared of, what the implication might be. on being falsely accused. And so this is a massive governance fail because the board or management or executive should be saying, well, our number one value is customer happiness or customer service. How does this AI initiative fit with that? Because I say to boards, look, if it doesn't fit, if it doesn't align, it's the wrong AI. Don't just pick the AI that looks cool or someone else says is cool, or will hopefully get you more revenue. There's a real role for human directors or governors to make sure that AI implementation matches company strategy.
So, are we seeing the rise of the robots? Are we seeing a real issue that's happening out there in some practical cases where we are implementing AI to a point where we don't have that human intervention, that fail-safe? What are the risks from a customer experience perspective? Yeah. Because ultimately, we need to have AI come into the organization. It is a tool. It's a productivity tool if used properly and managed.
Yeah.
Should we avoid AI? Should we just work through a very tight test environment and sandpit? Or should we, do something that is laissez-faire and just let it go out there and do what it does?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's getting more difficult to avoid AI, but I also think people call me in and they say, "Oh, Matt, can you come in and work with us for a day?" And they're like, "Oh, we want to become more productive and efficient." I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's useful. That's kind of good, but I'd say it's as much about people. It's about the people who might be your customers, and it might be the people, or not might be. It is the people who are your staff." So there's lots of evidence. If you release AI into your organization, the number one reaction you'll get is fear. It's not going to be, "Yay, we've got X, Y, Z." And the reason they have fear, and it's probably more intuition than logic, perhaps, but it's for a number of reasons. So one is ignorance. So they just don't know what it's going to do. And whenever you're not sure about something, that might be the case. But the other one is just fear for their jobs.
Yep.
And so I've spent a bit of time looking at the research around this. And I don't know if you remember when ChatGPT came out, there were a few media articles about, and I think it came out of India, if I'm correct, guy who had 4,000 or 40,000, I can't even remember the number, but it was a lot of contact center staff. And he said, right, we're moving to full AI. And from what I knew, I thought, well, that's a terrible idea because putting these kind of comments into the industry, suddenly half your staff in the industry are going to be scared about losing their jobs, and for no particular good reason, as I could understand it. I find there's what we call transparency, and it's a very common term, but applied to AI, it's this neurological thing that people don't like dealing with AI if they don't know it's AI, or if the AI pretends that it's a person.
Yeah,
it's just this insincerity that they just can't get over. It's an annoyance to them, and so when we look at are we going to see the rise of the robots? Probably not. No one's like, the robots don't get out of the box and try and take over. There needs to be some pull that says, okay, no, I'd rather deal with a robot than Elias, and we don't see that. The other quite delightful research came out about March. I think it was GlaxoSmithKline were sort of the guinea pigs, if you like, for this research. But what they found was that the more staff used AI, the happier they were in their roles.
Wow.
So not the opposite. And it's sort of study after study has come out reinforcing this. And it seems the happiest you can make someone through AI is to have what we call team-based AI. So it's not me sitting in here with ChatGPT doing my work. It's us, sitting around and all using AI to solve problems and together. So yes, it's sort of what we need to do is move from, here's AI, half your staff are scared for their jobs or more, to, well, here's AI, and let's have a go, because we can use it to get rid of those things that you really don't like doing.
So if you take that, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because in the contact center industry, we've said AI will remove the automation and the simpler type of calls and transactions. So whether it is an account balance or a reset of the password, AI and technology can help us to automate that. That then leaves us with the more complex calls, complexity that requires maybe a level of empathy, but also a level of understanding beyond the multi-layered issues that a caller will have. And I think we've got to understand, how do we then empower an agent? Because when you, let's put this into context, Matt. When we talk about the contact center industry, quite often I've heard people say it's an entry-level job on minimum or living wage. Let's just put those two phrases together. Entry level on minimum wage. Wow, that sounds so sexy. But yet most of the calls now become more and more complex. We can use AI to help enhance the agent's experience, whether it is looking at sentiment analysis, understanding what the customer is saying and doing, and looking for buying signals or things along those lines. But when you come to deploying it, how do we ensure that those people who are fearing for their jobs are then brought in to engage with this as a team activity? So I think you're hitting the nail on the head there. Because if you just say, "Hey, here's a decision made from up high. We're going to deploy AI, whether you like it or not."
So I'd step back a little bit, because I have heard this thing around, simple tasks will be to the AI and complex. I'm not sure that will pan out as people expect, because there's a lot of people who just want to talk to someone to get something done in an efficient way. And so AI is still not going to give them what they need for whatever sort of, psychological reason. And I'm no expert in call centers, but if I had a business that had a call center, I would say to them, the number one thing is, I don't want you to annoy my customers. Whatever you do, look, if they want to ring up and find their balance, then do it. Do it efficiently and empathetically, but do it. The other thing, of course, is the whole joy of using AI in a team comes from only getting rid of those things that you don't enjoy doing. And so if people find complex calls quite stressful, but simple calls really good, then don't take away the simple calls, because that's a big part of their motivation of the day, is not being overwhelmed by really upset people and things like that. I think it is a bit tricky, and I think the problem with, or the challenge with AI and generative AI, I'm talking about in this instance, is that if you roll it out with no kind of management and guidance, it will typically increase inequity. It will typically create winners and losers, and this could be globally. There might be call centers in low cost countries. I'm just making this up for the moment, but who might lose and call centers in New Zealand might win, or vice versa. So you really do have to actively manage how the AI is being used, and almost corral, if you like, people's use of it. So I say to organizations every single time, I say, look, find some way to bring your people together and just talk about what they're doing with AI. And there's one, I don't know if I've told you this, but one fantastic case, which I would say, can't be replicated probably in New Zealand for various, laws or scale-wise. But there's a firm in the US, and they have a Friday afternoon get-together. And as far as I understand, it's every week. And the boss comes along with $10,000 in cash, and he puts it on the desk, and everyone presents from the firm on how they have used AI to automate their roles in that week. And he gives the $10,000 to the one person who's created the best agent in the AI or something like that. And he was being interviewed, of course, and he said, "This is the best thing ever. Like, all of these people are saving at least 10 grand a week for me, and I only have to pay one." Yeah. So for me, that's kind of the extreme idea of, actually, AI can be fun. It can be, it's innovative. It sparks all those things and going on there. Don't use it. Don't just use it as a boring tool like Excel. It's much more than that.
Absolutely. So then if you just take that as an example, and
Mm.
thank you for
Mm.
sharing that with us. I love that example.
Yeah, maybe $1,000, but yeah.
Absolutely. So, but at the end of the day, when you look at this, here's the thought that goes through my head.
Yeah.
I was privileged enough to be invited to Malaysia to be a guest judge for the Contact Center Association
Right.
Malaysia's awards.
Yep.
And during that time, we were listening to the applicants, and a number of the applicants talked about, oh yes, we're using technology, we're
Yep.
using AI. It's helped us to improve the efficiency of our workforce management,
Yep.
scheduling and
Yep.
rostering, all the way through to reducing the average handling times, etc.
Good.
Yet I think the best implementation that had a CX improvement, a
Yep.
customer experience improvement,
Yep.
an NPS, that was when two organizations came together and they, one bank bought another bank, had two systems. They had two cultures, they had two processes,
Yep.
and they absolutely bombed. You're talking about over an hour's wait time in the queue, 35% plus attrition rate within the contact center. When they stopped, they said, well, let us listen to what the agents are saying, because they're listening to the customers directly, one-on-one.
Yeah.
They're offering that feedback, which is then going back to the organization. So when it comes to then deploying an AI implementation, I think the best advice that I heard was create a diverse group of people to help you implement this AI project.
Right.
So when you think about that, you're saying to yourself, well, do we just use people from the C-suite? Well, then you're going to get a bias. Do you go all the way down to the agent on the phone?
Yeah.
And do you then look at a diversity with age and gender and things along those lines? From your experience, what would you say are some of the keys in successful AI implementation?
Yeah, because you can have all these theories about bringing diversity around, but there's still power relationships in an organization. So the magic seems to be around piloting. So just find your 8 keenest agents for AI and say to them, look, it's just a pilot, doesn't work out, we'll kill it, And what they will do is they'll bring their enthusiasm and curiosity, because if you don't have curiosity, then AI is a bit flat, really, isn't it? And just work with them. And after 3 or 4 weeks, if it's working, there will be other people, I'm sure, who will want to join the pilot and go like that. The worst thing you can do is roll out AI and say, right, we're moving to AI tomorrow, because you get fear, you get all kinds of things. You'll build up resistance. I remember hearing Sam Altman, who's chief executive of OpenAI. He was asked whether there should be a committee of experts in AI like himself who get together around the world just to get together to talk about what they're doing. And I always remember his answer was, well, it shouldn't be me. You don't need another wealthy white guy from California telling the world how to use AI. Now, he didn't have a good answer for it, but perhaps, yes, that whole idea around bias of AI, just we need to be very careful about who's at the table deciding what to do. So the piloting idea, I think, is fabulous.
So if we pilot it and we get a couple of people in there, their enthusiasm, as you say, will create the wildfire that will engage others. But then you talk about some of the challenges. And then if you look at AI's had a reputation of hallucinating. Or AI's had a poorly thought through implementation. I'll give you an example. I remember coming back from my holidays at the end of last year, reading an article in the Herald that basically said couple booked their Airbnb or whatever it was through a particular organization, only to find out that there wasn't actually a hotel or a room. There was actually the location was a shopping mall. And when they went back to query this, all they had was an automated bot that said, we're going to get back to you in the next 72 hours. Well, not particularly helpful if you're stuck there trying to find accommodation that night. What are we learning that we can draw on in terms of the AI hallucinations and stopping that or guiding that so we can minimize those sort of instances happening? Or is this, again, another one of these urban myths that says that AI has hallucinated, will continue to hallucinate, or is it something that we can put to one side.
Yeah. I mean, there are tools you can use that have removed hallucination, but they're also not creative. They can't necessarily deal with situations that they haven't been trained on. So hallucination will always be a part of generative AI. I mean, we shouldn't probably call it hallucination. We should just call it, the most plausible answer happened to be wrong. And so, at a governance level, at an executive level, there always must be a human accountable for what the AI does. And that human must be available, not within 72 hours. So what we do when we're looking at a pilot, we very carefully look at what the AI is doing, and then who is the human that's responsible for that output. It might be one overall, but it needs to be, at each step. So I love the idea of, AI-enabled human-to-human contact. To me, that is hopefully the apex of how we use AI in sort of customer service. But I'm still surprised when AI makes a mistake, because it's come way down for the viewers. It's 95% down on what it was from ChatGPT days. So they've got all these tweaks, but it's still like, how could you get that wrong? And I know what to ask. So yes, we must. People say, who's going to be the first one person $1 billion company, unicorn? Because they're just going to be, Joe Blogg sitting here with his or her agents doing all the work. And I'm like, I just can't see that happening. They're just not accurate enough.
So you go back and you mention AI agents.
Yeah.
We're seeing the growth of the AI agents.
Yeah.
It's logical, I would think logical for us to consider implementing AI agents.
Yeah.
But you just identified a real need, an identified individual, named individual within the organization that has responsibility for that deployment.
Yeah.
I think we've got to understand that we can't allow, or we're not currently in a position where I don't think AI agents will become implemented across the whole organization. You still need, I think, a level of intervention, human intervention in there.
Yeah, and so I take organisations through, how do you do agents within an organisation? So agents, they're kind of like automation, but they use the AI to work out the tasks. So I say, look, you need what we call organisational agents. So these might interface with your CRM system or your finance system. Like I only want the CFO responsible for that one, not whoever else. And then above that, you have workflow agents. So these will be just certain tasks that you do. And again, there needs to be someone responsible for that. And then people can have their own personal agents that help them with something that's unique to them, and they can take personal responsibility for that. So yes, I think the whole idea that organisations will turn into sort of agent factories or whatever, it just doesn't work, and they won't be trusted.
No. Well, again, it goes back to your point earlier on about the fear factor amongst employees. If you say, look, there's an AI agent coming along, the first thought is, will it take my job? I think that's a very valid concern. Do you think we'll need to create kill switches for our AIs in the future?
I'm not sure about kill switches. I mean, I've looked long and hard and continue to look long and hard into what it will do to employment. And it's a little bit difficult in New Zealand because our economy is not so flash right now, and so it's hard to tell, what roles are disappearing because of AI and what roles are just disappearing because of not a great economy. And what we're seeing is that it's the entry level roles that are suffering the most, particularly in New Zealand, because you've got both of those things happening. And so it's easier for us to give a junior staff member AI and bring up their performance. And their productivity and efficiency and those sort of things. Much more cost effective to do that than to hire, a new person into the organisation. So that it's a little bit of a crisis worldwide in terms of, graduates and young folk just entering that profession. On the other hand, and I think contact centres are a good example of this, if you bring someone in who's, they don't need to be, it's not about age, it's just about experience in your sector, proficiency in doing whatever tasks you need to do. So no matter who they are, if you bring them in, you can use AI to get them up to speed much, much quicker. So for a contact centre, and I hate to I call up the insurance context, and I hate to think how long it's taken to train them up to even understand the policies, because With AI, of course, you can go from zero to, I assume, being in front of people in a few days, if that's possible. So for me, it's the jobs. We're in an uncomfortable position at the moment because we're going through this transition. But actually, I don't see it having a big effect on employment.
So if it's not going to have initially a big effect on employment, which is a good thing, I think, all around, where do you see AI being deployed? What are the applications within an organization or within a customer experience perspective? Kind of the two different elements.
Yeah. I mean, there are obvious ones in customer experience around personalization. And all I'd say is be a little bit careful about how much you personalize, because people don't like the number one fear, if you talk about, not about their jobs, but if you'd say, okay, think for 10 years, what do you worry about the most? It's around privacy. So they're like, I don't want AI using my information. And I don't know why, they'll say, but I just I want a little bit of privacy. So as soon as you get into personalization, then you throw on top of that a sort of a lack of transparency, you're heading into kind of difficult territory, I would say. The best thing I've seen it used for is review. And so it's a bit of a misnomer. It's the fault of the English language, really. Generative AI is not great at generating. It's really good at review. It's like 10 or 100 times as good at review as it is at generating. And there's reasons for that to do with tokens and parameters. And so the best tasks I see is, automatic agents that review what's being done and do so in a way that helps whoever's doing what it's doing learn to do it better next time. So rather than just, oh, well, here's the answer, and not go back, actually say, oh, these are the things that could be improved. What do you think? Or things like that. So you're actually developing your workforce and you're using this very powerful element of review. So I say to people, don't focus so much on the personalization, focus on the review.
So we could probably think of maybe a dozen, even more applications within, let's start with recruitment, for example.
Sure.
So recruitment, there's a great opportunity to use AI to help enhance the recruitment process, to engage with your HR team, with your applicants, etc. But then how do we adjust for bias, and what's the likelihood of bias coming in, just in the recruitment example, that can then also go across other parts of the business?
So it's good that that's a great example, because recruitment is probably the primo example of bias in AI.
Okay.
We used to worry back in 2018, 2022, the role of an AI person was to remove bias from decision making. And it was pretty tough, because bias is basically the representation of what the model was trained on. So if it's trained on Western liberal democratic information, that's what it will reflect. And then we realised that actually, people like bias in the models. It just has to be their own bias.
Okay.
So we say to people, choose your own, choose the model, the generative AI model that suits the bias of your organisation. So there's anything from Google at one end through to Grok probably at the other end. So one's highly filtered and politically astute or whatever. The other one, it's like your mate with no filter.
Yeah.
And so in my own life, I actually go between them, because sometimes I just want the factual answer rather than being lectured on sensitivities and things like that aren't relevant to the question that I'm asking. So recruitment is I say to people, never use it for recruitment, simply because the biases are so strong and so hidden that you won't realise what they are. There's lots of examples where they tried to remove bias from a recruitment evaluation, and in the end, it just kept having these sort of hidden biases. There's a classic example with, I think it was Amazon, and they took away all the gender. They took away all the schools that they went to, because it was hiring people from Harvard because Harvard has a good reputation, and then they still couldn't work out why it was choosing the male white guys. And what it was doing, it was actually focusing on their interests. And of course, if you're in the lacrosse team, which I think is a very fancy private school sport and college, then there's a correlation between that and people who are successful in the roles traditionally. So they just couldn't get away from it. There's some terrible studies actually coming out still on ChatGPT. So this is the latest version ChatGPT. And again, they're finding it as highly biased between different ethnicities. And we're not quite sure why that is. But and its fact, it's gone the other way. So it may well be OpenAI trying to correct the bias. It now favours, certain ethnic minorities, which might work out well. But it's that bias that's sort of necessary in there. There's one thing about recruitment. It's kind of sort of the nail in the coffin, really. And they've found this in the US particularly, is that AI will always choose the applications written by AI.
Okay.
And this is because it goes, wow, that's really well written. They've covered all the points, that's perfect. Choose this guy. Yeah. Choose this woman. And so now they're saying to candidates, look, you've got no hope of getting an interview unless you get AI to write your application. So we're now at, point zero, which is, how do you do recruitment now? AI's kind of ruined the game in some ways.
It's interesting to hear that, because we talked about recently in a roadshow here in New Zealand about the awards application within the CCNZ environment. Okay. And often we would say to our candidates and our applicants, when it comes to putting an application forward, we encourage you to utilize AI, but not depend on AI. Sure. And it's very obvious when you see an AI response, or it certainly was about a year ago, to identify that. I love a book that one of my mentors, John Maxwell, wrote called Think for a Change. and I love that, because we do need to think.
It's getting rarer, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely.
What is this thinking thing?
So if you then look at the breadth you mentioned from ChatGPT to Grok and everything in between, from totally unfiltered back into a politically correct guidance step by step to encourage you, there are many applications coming out. We're seeing the growth of AI, DeepSeek, others are included in there. If you then look at the risk that AI poses from a fraud perspective, deep fake is out there. We are seeing imitations, and I think they're getting cleverer and cleverer at replicating you as an individual. What are your fears and what are your aspirations for AI going forward?
Oh, it's a big question. I mean, I think that whole we call it the duality of AI. So for every powerful capability, it can be used for good and it could be used for bad, I suppose, for want of a better word. And so you can't really, the only way you can stop the bad coming out of AI is to stop AI. And there's been a few people who have suggested that, but it seems entirely off the table. People say, well, if we stop, then these people aren't going to stop. This is like the AI arms race. So you have to kind of come down, I guess, philosophically on how much you think, or how great you think the benefits of AI will be. And I say to people, look, I worry much more around someone in my family dying from cancer than I do worry about killer robot coming to my door. And I said that's how I do it. To me, the benefits of AI are so great in terms of doing those things that are really important, not the financial productivity efficiency, but actually helping out folk who don't have access to things, or helping out folk who have illnesses that humans were just too slow to cure, and we need to get there. I've had nights where I haven't been able to sleep because I've been so worried about AI. Now this was a couple of years ago. This was 2022, probably around there. And it was when they decided that AI could write code and then it could execute the code as well. So this is sort of the beginnings of it, self-learning and self-improving. And I thought, it never worked out well in science fiction. And so, that was a big concern of mine. But the more and more I see of AI, the less I'm worried about it, funnily enough, because it does kind of stay in its box. It doesn't have any, great desire to take over the world or do bad things. It's people who might use it to do those sort of things. And I think we've faced those challenges since, the dawn of time. And hopefully we can use AI to kind of protect the communities against those things.
Do we then say that we are going to be dependent on the government, for example, introducing more legislation to weed out the bad actors and put something in place for us as a safeguard?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think governments are probably. Yeah, I mean, it's been proven, hasn't it? With the governments who have put restrictions on AI are now suffering the consequences from a loss of innovation. And the Americans have completely removed, or at least at the federal government level, completely removed regulation because they could see the Chinese accelerating away from them. So I don't think it's the role of government in particular. You can see when big organisations are taken to court, it takes decade for the final, if it ever comes, the final adjudication. I think, and this is New Zealand's perspective, is that the current laws we have protect people and restrict activities, not based on whether it's AI or not, based on the activity itself. And so I actually think that's the best way to do it. I'd be a fan of regulation if there was a global regulation that came down and that we could prosecute people who went against it. But I just think that's not even vaguely possible.
So if I was to ask you to then, go into the future, and I don't know how far the future
Next week, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could look into the future of AI and say to yourself, okay, this is where I see AI in the future, give me a timeline and give me some of the changes you see happening on the horizon.
Yeah. So the good thing about predicting AI is that you can have whatever view you like, and no one can really prove you wrong because it is so uncertain. And they say, if you meet an AI expert who tells you what's going to happen in the future, then they're probably not an AI expert. So we have a lot of AI theorists kind of talk about, AI is at the moment, and they call that narrow intelligence. So it's really good at some things, amazing at some things, but it still can't tell you how many R's there are in strawberry. Now, maybe they fixed that one, I don't know. But lots of examples of it just can't do a really basic task, but it can solve, some mathematical theorem. So we call that A&I. And then there's AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. So this is the point where AI is as good as humans at everything a human can do. And people argue about the definition, so much so that we'll probably never quite get there because if the definition is too narrow. But we have what we call AGI-ish moments. And I had my first AGI-ish moment about 3 weeks ago, where I got it to review a design of a large steel span bridge. And I'm a civil engineer, so that was what I was trained in. And I just said, pretend you're a senior structural engineer. Can you review this bridge for me? This was OpenAI Agent, which is a very recent tool. And it went through, took about 20 minutes, and it produced this amazing report with all the calculations shown in an Excel spreadsheet. And I happened to be with some other structural engineers who are much better than me. And I still remember the look on their face because it was perfect. It had done it perfectly. And we're like, this is an AGI-ish moment. So I think the future will be full of these kind of AGI-ish moments when AI becomes really good at a particular task. But it's not going to, it's just the physics the mathematics don't work. It just can't replace humans across all of the things that we do because it's just, one word after the other. That's how AI works.
So I get reassurance talking to you that AI is not going to take over the world. It won't lose jobs within the organization, but there's still a level of governance we have to still put in place to ensure that we're using it effectively.
Yeah. And I think, if we went back 2 years ago, people were probably saying, well, contact centers will go out of business. Well, now that the evidence is finally coming through, it's almost the opposite, is that we're discovering this human love for human interaction. And AI fits really nicely in that, as long as it has as we've talked about, that sort of accountability and human oversight and all those sort of things. And the good news is, as I say, the evidence is people will become happier in their jobs because AI will do those things that they don't enjoy doing.
So if I could conclude this by asking you a question, what are your ideas and hopes for AI being deployed in New Zealand? And if you could share a parting thought in terms of where AI is going, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, so my hope is that we get we get less reliant, I guess, on the big American firms who are rolling out this AI with their own restrictions and costs and things, and get more towards what we call sovereign AI. And this is, we're lucky because the models are getting more efficient, so we can start kind of hosting things nationally rather than globally. I guess my parting thought would be, it's a lot around, there used to be a phrase that was, AI is not going to take your job, but someone using AI will. And that had been around for a couple of years, and it never sat quite right with me. And what we found is actually not correct. Like, the evidence is not showing that. And in fact, that what you bring to your role is a lot more than what AI can do. Even the person who yaks on the phone to the customers outside of a call center, they're still really valuable. And someone with AI is not going to take the job away. So we have a new phrase now, which I only heard the first time a couple of months ago. And it's like, AI is not going to take your job, it's going to come with your job.
Okay.
And I think that's far more representative of what we're doing. And so New Zealand, we're a bit behind the ball at the moment. I think we're the second most scared nation in the OECD when it comes to AI. And it's not clear why that is. But I also think, AI has been sold using a lot of fear. And that, as I say, it's easy because that's the first reaction people often get. But I think we need to move beyond that and really focus on this idea that AI will be part of your job, but it won't be the core part of your job.
Fantastic. Well, Matt, if I could ask, if any of our audience wants to connect in with you, what's the best way they can find you and connect in with you?
Yeah, obviously on LinkedIn, it's just Matt Ensor, or my website, which is Kiaora AI. That will take you through to what I can do.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate you spending some time with us today, Matt.
Pleasure.
It's been a genuine pleasure to listen to you. And AI, or your job, will come with AI.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I think that is so true. And until we meet again, thank you again for your time.
Oh, thank you.